Good afternoon, Final Fantasy Randomizer fans. Welcome to Week 6 of the Spring 2020 tournament. This afternoon, we have a 2-3 matchup between two runners fighting to stay alive and get a chance at the last chance qualifier. I'm joined in the booth here by MG Weirdo, and our restreamer is Darkmoon. MG, how's it going?
Pretty good. I'm looking forward to this match. As you said, they're both 2-3, so the winner of this match gets to stay in the tournament, go on to the last chance qualifier, which is going to be a pile of fun, but the loser is done for the season.
So we have ourselves a draft here. When you're seeing duplicate parties, people often assume that you're dealing with a draft, but when you're seeing something fairly standard, you never know. So in this case, we have Fighter, Thief, Red Mage. The draft one is followed. Rumblefish chose Fighter first. Leggy followed up with Red Mage, and then Rumblefish finished off with a Thief. So we are seeing, fairly standard parties here. However, critically, we'll see if Life 2, Cure 4, or Temper or Fast are locked to only Black Mage or White Mage, respectively. And looks like the gate has been dropped, and we are off.
Yeah, Leggy did request some favorable magic early, and we have Exit will be available right away, and Fade will be available, I believe that's after promotion for the Red Wizards.
That's correct. So having Fade available, yes, it's annoying that you won't have it for your early game, but the fact that it's level 1 still means it's level 1, so they will get to have tons of charges of it for the late game.
Yeah,
also, just
having
a little
Exit more. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, also, just having Exit early is just such a convenience. My goodness, it saves so much walking.
Yeah, I was thinking that puts a little bit more emphasis on finding the tail and promoting, and which will, play into when you decide you're ready for the Temple of Fiends in the endgame.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that is kind of annoying about having Exit and Fade in the same place, but Exit being available right away and Fade being promotion locked, is that you might buy Exit first. And that means Fade's going to be in that second slot for the rest of the seed, and that's just so annoying. Having to constantly remember to menu over, never mind having the Exit boss in your first slot at level 1.
And speaking of the Temple of Fiends, we go straight for it. Leggy uses Zap to get through Garland. Rumblefish is not far behind. We get the key from the king and the bottle from the princess, so having that key early opens up a lot of checks for us.
Yeah, the key is definitely something that's nice to find in the early game, unless it means that you have to go to Keylock Marsh, in which case it's the worst to find in the early game.
I would still say that it's probably better than finding a fetch quest item that takes you to the key and then you have to go back into Marsh.
And in the bottom left corner of the Temple of Fiends, we have a loose chime.
Yeah, so we haven't mentioned it yet. This is the Chaos Week of the tournament, so we have 3 loose items this week, plus the canal. So we have found that first item. We are now able to get to the into the Mirage Tower, and we'll be looking for at least 2. We'll be looking for 2 more as well.
Yeah, and also still looking for that loose canal so they can even start to access the rest of the world. Getting an early pro ring there, also nice, and fairly cheap chainmail, so armor situation not terrible.
I'd say for early game, that's actually pretty good. Chainmail is, one of the higher protection to cost ratio items, and then a pro ring, you're going to use that the whole game. It's almost equivalent to chainmail by itself.
Absolutely. And looking like money won't be too much of an issue unless they find a very expensive shop item, as you find an opal armor there, which is nice to keep for the late game, but could be sold as well for some early cash.
Yeah, it's about the best defensive, for physical attacks, but it doesn't have all those elemental protections like the dragon armor does. So yeah, we'll certainly see if they decide to sell it. And like you said, that'll depend on where the shop items are and how much else they want to go through.
Yeah, Leggy using the zap stats on the pirate, getting it done. Leggy's Thief still up. We will see how long that lasts. Well, Rumblefish, I believe his is already taking a dirt nap.
Yeah, he actually just sort of barely escaped after checking the the chest in the Temple of Fiend's left side. Turns out to not be a great decision routing wise because he could go back in with the key to check the right side at this point. But we'll see. They both checked something that the other one hasn't, where it's Leggy being a little bit ahead in the towns, but Rumblefish has checked that left side of Temple of Fiends and found that first loose item.
Yeah, we had a very expensive gold bracelets in Provoca here. I think they were around $49,000, so not an option for the early game, but something that they'll be able to come back and get if they are lacking for armor.
Yeah, the other thing that's really shown up on Leggy's side in Provoca is that we do not have really any great black magic on these first two levels. Zap is okay, it'll get you through these early couple of levels, but we really want to see one of these elemental sweepers, not the level 1 fire or ice that are only going to damage one target at a time.
Yeah, and that will lead to some interesting routing decisions and like some interesting necessity to get some other, try and dig a few chests to find a casting item or get a few extra levels on these melee classes so that they can help you clear out some of these mobs.
Yeah, it's going to make something like the Thor hammer or any of the other caster items really valuable if we find one of those early.
Yeah, I mean, the Thor hammer, an hour and 20 minutes into a seed is not usually what you want to see, but a minute 20 into the seed, Thor hammer is great. It can get you through a lot of the early dungeons.
Okay, and Leggy skips the Elflin checks to go straight for the treasury, so I guess she's going to rob the elves and pay them in their own cash.
Yeah, I was going to say, I like this decision because checking this first, well, if you get a little bit of extra money, it can save you from having to double dip here, so.
Well, and she found a katana, which she's going to promptly turn around and sell for about $7 grand. That'll get you most of your spells.
No,
There's another one out there.
The thief. Yeah, and we never know if we're even going to be able to promote, so it's something that makes a lot of sense.
The who? Okay, so Black Magic, we found a Fast and a Cake at level 3. We have Invis 2 and Heal 3, both Red Wizard and Fighter learnable. So there's finally some decent white magic that she was asking for at the beginning of the seed.
Yeah, something that's not too bad, but we're still noticeably lacking just like a consistent sweeper here. Also Lock 2 there, something that's nice to pick up.
Yeah, one of those, like, just like Fast, it's great for the end game where you're really relying on your melees to pull you through.
Yeah, and something that for people who have been playing the randomizer for a few years, something that was fixed. So Lock does now indeed work and is worth picking up, especially if you can find it for cheap. Okay, yeah, those gold bracelets, 43,000, but those silver bracelets are pretty reasonably priced, at about 1,600 bucks. Those are something that are a nice pickup for your mages. I guess in this case, because we don't have, a black mage or anything like that, they're not as essential as those red mages can get by with the chain, no problem, but it is nice enough.
Yeah, the chain is a little bit better, I'd say. But that black shirt's going to be useful. That's one of our caster items. Unfortunately, nobody's ever going to be able to wear that, so it's just you get to show it to people and they get a little chill.
Level 4, not so bad. We have stacked white magic with both life and cure 4. Red mage learnable, and in the black mage magic side we have fire 3. So level 4 magic looking pretty good.
Finally a sweeper, and then Rumblefish barely avoids disaster. He killed the pirates, left Bicky to go check the shops, and only on his way back did he remember to talk to Bicky and pick up his cube. So that's one of those checks that if you miss that in the race, it feels awful. We've all done it once or twice, but you don't forget for quite a while after that, because it can be a long time before you get back.
Always remember Bicky. That is to be honest, I don't think it's a long time. It's just a never. If you don't remember to check Bicky when you defeat pirates, you're not coming back.
Well, yeah, in this sort of situation, your opponent's probably going to finish before you remember to go back and see him.
Rumblefish is about to give us a look at the Dwarf Cave. Many chests available with that early key. The early key is really a nice item. It does make you kind of have to walk all around the inner sea, but it also can give you early access to a bunch of armor and cash that normally you have to go somewhere like Volcano Armory to get access to, or Dive Marsh. So Not too bad. Meanwhile, Leggy's deciding to go visit Matoya. Of course, no crystal yet, but still 3 chests here. We'll see. I have to see what she finds.
Yeah, and these were checks that we were going to do regardless at this point. We pick up another endgame item with Rumblefish and the Aegis Shield, but we were going to need either the canal in one of these boxes, or we were going to need the canoe or an item that leads to the canoe. So just to be able to get out and get to Volcano, get to the rest of the world.
Oh, and in the Dwarf Armory, it is an armory indeed, as we have just found the Massa.
Yep, the best weapon in the game. There's arguments that the katana or the vorpal might be a little bit better, but they really do depend on what the difficulty settings are. Massa is wieldable by everybody in your party. Massive damage, reasonable crit rate. It's especially early on. You know that you've got an endgame sword. You don't need to worry about promotion there.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, a very high hit percentage, which lets you get extra swings earlier. So at this point, we have 2 key locks in the Temple of Fiends and Marsh Cave for our progressions.
And 3 in Northwest Castle.
Yeah, and Northwest Castle. So starting to run out of options. Marsh Cave, the pretty much 2-to-1 favorite at this point to have our progression just in terms of chest density. More than that with the key locks, actually.
Yeah, it's about 50% right now. There's about 10 chests in Marsh, and we have, more than, and then there's 6 between the 2 sets of key lock chests that we haven't checked.
Rumblefish about to be probably, a little bit worried here as he checks level 3 magic, but will be greeted by some lovely level 4 magic, so...
Well, and that opal armor, that, to me, I'm selling that right now, because that was max price, so you're not going to find a better deal than that.
Oh boy, yeah. And opal armor is just something that's very expendable for the late game. Yes, it provides a ton of absorb, but, if you have a flame armor or an ice armor, you'll get by almost as well. And if you find a dragon armor, even better.
And Leggy picks up her chime, and hopefully we'll see these key lock checks on the other side after she's done running through. We also have exit to make running the pathing in here a little bit easier.
Ali Giraffe asking in chat who drafted who. So Rumblefish started with a fighter, Leggy went red mage, and Rumblefish finished off with a thief. So we ended up with a fairly standard party, but a little bit of spice. His temper may still be black mage only. Fast, of course, being level 3. But for white magic, we have everything you could want. We have Cure 4, Life, I guess no Life 2 yet, but Cure 4, a Life spell, and Fade is Red Wizard learnable, so not hurting too much other than just a few extra spell charges for these runners. Rumblefish making an interesting play here, deciding to go check out Marsh before doing Northwest Castle. I think that if I was in his shoes, it might be safer just to quickly check the Northwest Castle first, but that being said, this is at this point there's a higher chance of it being in Marsh than not, so he might just be making the percentage play. leggystarscream, meanwhile, going to be checking out these key locks in Temple of Fiends. And if there's an item here, that will put her with a little bit of a knowledge advantage. Those Ankylos, though, ugh, get out of there.
Yeah, they're not the worst one, but they are one of those monsters that you just don't want to have to deal with. Large amounts of health, hit reasonably hard, but don't give you a lot of XP for their difficulty. So Leggy is rewarded with a flame armor, so our fighter can use that right away, and that's as good as anything until promotion.
Yeah, also great because the thief can equip it, or the ninja can equip it afterwards as well, so...
Yeah, you gotta love those hand-me-downs to little brother.
Oh, poor ninja, he's not a little brother. He's a very solid swordsman with that katana, but yes.
Yeah, and Rumblefish, finding out why some of us say never Marsh, the shadows with fire too, and really the reason we dislike Marsh is because you're usually going to it early game. You might not have the best sweepers like we don't have today, and there's just a lot of different enemies. So between all those different enemies, you have a good chance of getting something, with a spell that's going to really hurt you early on. It's
Yeah.
easy to come back to it late game and just walk through it because they're all fairly weak enemies.
Yeah, not only that, things like Zap and Quake and things like that are so much more dangerous in the early game when your party members have no resistance. That being said, Thunder is dangerous pretty much at all points. This is not going to be a fun marsh dive. At this point, I'm just very thankful that Rumblefish has exit at the very least. So if he does dig up the canal or digs up, the canoe, he can at least exit out and get out safely. But this is not going to be fun.
Yeah, and this is a good reason to have that thief up. So you're seeing a lot of value from that thief pick right here, with just being able to run from encounters is saving you a lot of damage and a lot of trouble, especially if you get things like turn order. I wouldn't be opposed to putting that thief in the first slot just for the ambush, and first strike percentages.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Although, yeah, actually, and the pro ring could be moved over as well. Leggy Starstream checking the last chests that are available and gets that really nice combination of ice, shield, flame armor, or vice versa. So that will be a fairly well-equipped fighter throughout this early game, but Rock Galls also have Blizzard and Crack. So that is not fun.
Yeah, that's good information to have, because those, they weren't horribly tough because that fighter is already able to take it down in one swing with the Masa, but coming back with pro rings and a couple more levels, that'll be a good, middle to end game grind if you find you need it.
Yeah, absolutely. A ribbon would be nice as well to deal with that Blizzard.
Yeah, well, and that's why the fighter was able to stay up, because she smartly took that ice shield and equipped it immediately. Getting that resistance was, almost very helpful.
Yeah.
Rumblefish finding the canal, though, in top of marsh, exiting out.
So if you're Rumblefish, do you go back right now? Do you dare tempt fate and go into the bottom of marsh?
The answer is no, and I don't blame him at all.
Yeah, that's a pretty scary marsh cave. You can kind of count on marsh having at least one thing that's bad, but when marsh has two things that are bad, then it's a little bit more risky to continue to dive down. And right now we've seen multiple enemy formations that can wipe him. But he is deciding to go back, so we will have to see. I think the key locks really do change the math here a little bit. The fact that you know that once you go down here, you never have to go back if you do manage to get a full clear is very nice. Versus if you're orphaning the key locks anyways, checking those extra, 7 chests makes it a little bit riskier, as you can check it, not find it, and then only to have something in the key locks later.
Yeah, and then you also worry about, and when you think about like encounter zones, different levels of marsh will have different enemy packs on them. So I don't know them that well, but if you do know them pretty well, you could also make those calculations and say, okay, I know these bones have thunder, I'm not going to mess with them. And Leggy paying the price for not casting exit, those thunder bones not being very nice to her.
I think the way Leggy routed that, she actually still had a few chests left to check. So I think that's the reason she didn't cast exit, rather than just not, it's because she goes down first. So
okay, instead of doing the upper ones first, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't just, pure greed or forgetfulness. She just wants to finish clearing it out. Rumblefish has had enough of marsh.
I don't blame him. You can go somewhere else.
Yeah, but unfortunately somewhere else. You're currently looking at not a lot. We have Rodless Earth, which is never a good time. And then the big kind of staring at you in the face location right now is Sky, with both the Chime and the Cube. But with no Premier Sweeper and, a level 7 or so party, Sky is going to be a little bit difficult.
Well, and then we have the great hope is the Circle of Sages and a possible Peed grind to get yourself some levels for Sky.
The Circle of Stages also could give us the canoe, which would open up a lot more options, allow us to do our mini incentive dungeons, which are ice, waterfall, and ordeals, all of which are unlocked by the canoe.
Yeah, or just go straight volcano. There's plenty of chests there. It's reasonably low level, so yeah, canoe is really going to open up this seed if we can find it. But and Rumblefish avoids, that wretched hive of scum and villainy called Melmond, and is headed straight for Crescent Lake.
Yeah, and this makes tons of sense. This is the incentive location that's available to him. He doesn't want to go dive Marsh. He almost certainly doesn't want to go dive Earth, although I've seen a number of people check the first floor. If you can get a nice run off of the encounter table somewhere, you can check all the chests for pretty close to free, and it also allows you to check 3 distinct different spike tiles. So that can be a nice way to get some levels as well, but I think the Crescent Lake play makes a ton of sense here.
Yeah, and especially if we find these Pete encounters, these are good mid-level experience grind if they're not terribly tough or they don't have nasty spells. And Scorch, I'm willing to put up with for this much experience, and it's a good way to catapult yourself from level 6 or 7 up to level 12 or 15.
Yeah, so these beads definitely do have a script. Scorch into Glance is not the worst, but not ideal either.
Okay, we weren't even level 7, but either way, it's still probably worthwhile if you can find them off of a power cycle here. But Rumblefish doing the right thing, and he's going to check that incentive location and save first.
Yeah, Crescent Lake, similar to like the desert, has a number of different encounter zones around it, so you can actually check multiple places off the power cycle. It's a lot trickier if you don't have the canoe, but if you have the canoe, you can often get to all 4 as long as your run off the power cycle is 8 or 9 steps.
Yeah, and that's one of those mechanics of the game where the world is broken up into these squares. It's why the Plains of Power or Peninsula of Power grind is a thing. And yeah, Rumblefish finding that canoe, the Circle of Sages comes through for him, and he's headed out.
Yeah, that vanilla canoe. Choosing to forgo volcano or ice at this point, I believe what I would guess is going to be for something like a waterfall play or ordeals play. Waterfall, very nice with exit. Ordeals, exit does not help nearly so much. Warp is definitely what you're looking for there.
Yeah, that warp allowing you to solve that pillar maze in a lot less time and a lot less steps, a lot less dangerously. Exit will work perfectly well for waterfall, or down at the bottom of any of these dungeons.
For those of you who are familiar with the vanilla game, the Ordeals Pillar Maze has been re-randomized, so no, it's not that these runners have not just read the Nintendo Power and failed to memorize it. It changes every single time. So Warp, another non-vanilla addition. Now Warp, of course, available in the vanilla game, but not until after you promote. And of course, Ordeals has the tail, so you cannot promote without doing it. Warp allows you to go back to the previous pillar that you were at. So if you take a wrong turn, you've been here before, just a quick warp, and you're right back on track. So a very nice convenience.
And Rumblefish giving us a bit of a slideshow, but telling us we're going to have to explain Ordeals all over again. He's headed to OnRack. We still do have a vendor item out there, so that this is a smart play to look for that while it's here, restock, and then he might even go check the caravan, but probably waterfall first.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd fully expect a caravan check here. Looking for that vanilla vendor item. However, of course, it will not be the bottle in this particular case, but...
You mean the princess didn't buy it for us already?
Princess Sarah's so kind, though. But she's not singing beautiful music this time. I'd be a little bit happier with her loot than her just giving you like a random bottle. I guess in this case it does have a fairy in it, though, so fairly equitable.
But I'd be happier with the loot too, just because that is the ice rod of this game. It's only required to get you through one check at the very end of the game So if it's loose, it can be literally anywhere other than the very last dungeon. So
Yeah.
it can be hidden in any corner. It doesn't lock anything else. So you really don't know where it's going to be.
Yeah, in all seriousness, finding the loot is definitely super nice. I think the loot makes me the third happiest of all the items I can get in the early game after the canoe and the floater. And then probably the key is right after that, because the loot just stresses me out if it's going to be loose. The key does lock a number of locations, but it also can be in any incentive dungeon, except for like, TFC and I think, is there one other key locked in a dungeon somewhere?
There's TFC. There is
In C.
right in C Shrine, and then Northwest Castle, Canary Armory, Elfland Armory, and then there's one in the Temple of Fiends Revisited.
Right, that's the one I was thinking. Yeah, Temple of Fiends Revisited, but of course an item cannot be there.
Yeah, and Rumblefish, finding out that this really is a trash seed, some jerk must have rolled this for them, because mummies have cremate, and mummies, well, are everywhere.
Yeah, mummies having cremate. Not the most dangerous of all spells, but also just going to be very dangerous in high numbers for these early party levels, and also very, very annoyingly slow, because cremate. You're going to get really tired of that really fast.
And mummies tend to come in packs, so he's getting low rolls here, but he also found out nightmares have both glance and glare, so put you to stone or kill you one way or the other, just don't look him in the eye.
And they are unrunnable, which is even worse. Larry Rhea 2 saying, "Go Leggy." Yes, go Leggy. Cheesinator cheering for both runners, but especially Leggy. But yeah, so Leggy's deciding to go with the alternative route, I would say. Once you get that canoe, it does kind of offer up two different kind of distinct areas to you. And most runners will have to make a choice whether they want to go to the northern continent and do ordeals in Waterfall, or if they want to stay down here, kind of the closer but potentially more dangerous, although Waterfall giving a little bit of a hard time here. Checking the Volcano Armory, which is relatively safe, but going deeper, always a risk. Or Ice Cave, which is arguably just as dangerous as the Waterfall, but quite a bit longer.
Yeah, I'd say it's slightly less dangerous, although typically it's gauged at a slightly lower level. You have to get to it in vanilla before you can get to Waterfall or Ordeals.
Mm-hmm.
So even with the randomizer, we're randomizing around the base stats. So the monsters you'll see will typically be a little bit beefier, a little bit harder to kill, do a little bit more damage. Of course, that's on average.
Yeah. One thing I don't like about Ice Cave, though, is that they tend to come in very large packs, so if something rolls something, you're in a world of hurt. Versus, even if Mudgalls or Nightmares roll something, at least you're only dealing with 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah, and I've seen many a race hinge on whether you went to Ice Cave early or Ice Cave late, because if you come back late, you've got levels, you can avoid a lot of the stuff, you can withstand a lot of the damage from it, and early on you can't. But we'll see how it goes with Leggy as she's about to turn the corner into the real armory part of this second floor of the volcano.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, actually, this is not looking good for Rumblefish here, but interestingly enough, having Exit incentivizes both, as Exit greatly speeds up both Ice Cave and Waterfall. So, and the other thing I really like about Exit in the early game is it makes it a lot safer to like grind through the volcano, because the worst thing that can happen is if you die getting out of the volcano armory, or you find a really good trap tile that you want to take a few times, but then you're a little bit worried about walking out. And let's see what we have in the volcano armory here. So far, some nice stuff, but nothing.
Yeah, we have a flame sword, which is kind of nice, but we also found a defense sword, which is one of those great endgame pieces that will really help. And Leggy also putting that flame sword on one of those red wizards, so now that, or red mages, sorry, so that the red mages can actually contribute without casting spells.
Yeah, absolutely. Otherwise, just a bunch of gear. Was defense in the hairpin, or was it in one of the
Oh,
actual
it was in one of the first two there in Armory.
Oh, okay, I just didn't see that. Okay, awesome. So
Yeah, it
Leggy
was before her encounter.
Yeah, Leggy gonna save her progression here and head back in. Yeah, the defense definitely a nice pickup. It's something that can really help secure your endgame. Um, a man-moding fighter with a defense can, or in Will Bloodworth's case, a man-moding thief with a defense can solidly get through a lot of fiends just by getting up to maximum evades and punching hard.
Yeah, and we do have some Team Thief in the chat, so runners that really enjoy playing that character. Leggy here with some minor mistakes. So one of the things about Volcano is that all of the lava tiles, the damage tiles, do not count toward your encounter or toward your step count, and the game chooses certain runs, and then you get an encounter every so many steps. If you step on those damage tiles, you don't increase that. You're not going to take another. You're not going to get another encounter, so you can push those encounters off, and that makes you go faster. So it's probably not enough to make a difference, but it's one of those minor things that if you're looking to clean stuff up, that's one place you could find it possibly.
Yeah, Rumblefish getting hit by an absolute nightmare of a spike tile here. We have ambushing evil men or bad men, I forget which one, but they punch hard, and they basically just took out his entire party in the ambush round. This is going to be very difficult. I'm surprised to see him going back in here. I don't think he has really a way to get through that tile, and if they have a very high ambush chance, that means every single time that he gets to that tile, he's just going to get wiped. So
yeah, that was a pack of bad men. So the evil men, I believe, come with the nightmares, and aren't in quite as many numbers. But either way, you're right. That's an end game enemy. That's a very tough thing, and yeah, I'm like you. I'm a little surprised that he's gonna keep going in this waterfall, but he's going for it.
I mean, if this was a 5-minute, or not a 5-minute, if this was like a 5-second walk to that spike tile and you could just try it over and over again for fairly cheap, that's a bit of a different case. But this waterfall walk is both perilous and long, and if you're going to do it a few times to wipe to that tile, that is exceptionally dangerous.
It's perilous and long. I think the perilous were over on Leggy's screen more, so the perilous have rolled rare here, but
look,
but we do see them
in Rumblefish side as well. Yes, the Perilous are everywhere. The Perilous is everywhere. But Leggy Starscream making pretty good progression here through Volcano. Getting a full clear in here, which is always nice. We found some gear, but nothing that's critical progression. But gear is always nice to help just be a little bit more survivable throughout this kind of early mid game.
Yeah, and then I don't remember if I think she did check the both the fire and the great worm tiles, but I didn't see, or I don't remember anything, so it probably wasn't that important. But here in just a minute, we're going to heal up and we'll check the Agama trap tile. So that's our third different of the 4 that are possible here.
So Rumblefish does make it through and gets the ruby, and that is a sizable reward at this point in the game. The ruby, if you do not have the floater, is the only item that unlocks 2 key items. So yes, it's a fetch quest, but it's the best type of fetch quest. And he gets out. So that waterfall play, while very perilous, did pay off at the end, but spent a good solid couple minutes there fighting his way through.
Yeah, so that's a big time loss or time investment maybe, and he's going to raise the rest of his party, but we'll see how well that pays off for him. Leggy found sea trolls and lobsters, so probably the seafood party platter on that trap tile. Does take it and defeats it with zap strats, but probably not a tile I'm going to take and use to grind on, especially without Lightning 3.
Absolutely. Rumblefish not going to go check the vendor item in the Oasis, which is a little bit interesting, but I guess you can go for the ruby drop-off first, but I would definitely just quickly hop over there. You just save right in front of the boat, and then you can always just exit out if it's nothing.
Yeah, it's a very easy. Well, is he going back for it?
Maybe debating if he
No.
wants to do ordeals first.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some debate
Or
in chat.
sometimes if you go south, then you get the wrong way. But yeah, it's one of those things you don't want to orphan one of those locations. Caravan is an easy location to forget and miss.
Yeah, you can always check it when you go to sea, but if that item is something that leads to the floater, that can be really bad. So I definitely prefer to check that vendor item, especially when it's so quick. Leggy Starstream, meanwhile, taking on our first fiend at the 34-minute mark, chose to skip the red dragon chest, which in the vanilla game has, I think, the flame armor.
It's one chest. It's down at the bottom of this dungeon, but the other thing I think influencing that skip is that she knows she'd have to go through the seafood party platter again, which is, a large pack event of fairly dangerous enemies and not something you're guaranteed to get through.
So using those Fog 2 strats, Fog 2, an underrated spell, or not as commonly used spell, but increases your evade, absorb. And that will actually make this a lot more survivable here. Now, not too much more survivable to Fire 2, but Carrie getting punched pretty hard with a single fast on that fighter, able to do some good damage. So this Carrie should not be long for this world, and this has been a really nice fight here by Leggy Starscream.
Yeah, and Leggy Starscream lighting our first orb at about 35 minutes in. Rumblefish checking the Melman shop, so we get Temper and we get Warp at level 5. So Warp is sort of French vanilla. It's not in its normal location, so that it is going to be learnable. It's not in that third slot. And Life 2 was in the white magic in the third slot.
Oh, that is a little bit unfortunate that Life 2 was in that third slot there, but what can you do? They've got enough good magic here that they can't be too upset about it, and picking up Warp before going to Ordeals is a nice change-up. So yeah, Rumblefish deciding to go turn in the Ruby before doing Ordeals. That, between getting the Warp and getting a few more items, will pay off nicely. The one thing I do like about doing Ordeals when you're in the Northern Continent anyways on the ship is that it actually is slower to get to Ordeals with the floater, like if you land it. So
yeah, there's 3 spots you can land, and none of them are all that close in terms of walking distance. Where that river, you can just put out your canoe.
Yeah, exactly. The canoe's actually really close. But at the same time, the Ruby, that's so valuable. I think I would have done Ordeals before if I had the Adamant, like a single fetch quest. But with the Ruby, I think this play makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, the other thing I was thinking about the pickup of Warp was that it's also nice to have that before Ice, so now you can clear Ice in just one round, and you can actually full clear it. I mean, we are still looking for 2 loose items, and who knows where they're going to be.
Yeah, now the exit does make it clearable in one shot as well. You just don't get to see the incentive item quite as quickly. So I think Ice is fairly reasonable, but it looks like Leggy deciding she's had enough of it, saving Ice for a latter day, and gonna go figure out what the next play is here. This looks like, with the routing she's taking, I think she might be going. I think it's a little bit faster to wrap around the long, like, go down in order to get to some of the other places, but she may be going to Sky.
Sky. I mean, I'm all in favor of that check. I think she has enough levels now after having done Volcano, but no, it looks like she might be cruising on past and headed toward Ordeals.
Okay.
But yeah, lots of no, maybe not. But lots of experience as well as chests to check. So I don't like Sky for one or the other. I like it for the combination of both.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this does look like an Ordeals check here, and Sarda coming in with the Oxyale. So we still do have that crown to turn in, but the Ruby obviously required, so that waterfall check will be needed at some point by Leggy, but not something that is, providing the floater,
immediate,
for example. So Leggy was going to Ordeals there. I think it might be slightly faster to sail down and right there, but it's, at this point it's fairly negligible.
Yeah, I mean, she got there, and in terms of optimizations, again, it's relatively small. Finding these items or making your way through ordeals, the maze here, you're probably going to lose more time in the maze than you are getting here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the only benefit that she could really have had is if she got that warp charge first. But
Yeah,
we'll
well,
see.
I'm just thinking it'll save more time.
Yeah. This maze might be free, though. We will see.
Yeah, and Rumblefish is going to head back and get in his ship, and we'll see where he goes, as Leggy is on the first two here in this the four choice room. The first two are not right. The third one is.
Maybe. Once it goes to that, I think once she goes down there, that should be what you need. Meanwhile, Rumblefish finding the loot. The kindly old king does have the loot, so that is another big sigh of relief, as you do not need to be worried about that. And with that, Rumblefish is one item from go mode.
Yeah, I mean, we're still some levels away, but absolutely we are one item off. And here, I hope he checks these spike tiles, because we had those rock goals, and he's going to have the levels and equipment to actually take those on, I think.
Ambushing with Blizzard, not so nice, but yes. This, I don't know though. This could be still a bit nasty.
Yeah, that ambush does take him out, so maybe they are a little too tough to be worth taking on.
I also am not sure if Rumblefish... Did he save after he got the loot? Okay, so hopefully he remembers that he needs to go back and refight Astos.
Yeah, otherwise that's going to be a really rude awakening when you go to move that last and open up that last staircase.
And leggystarscream does get it. That was not a very kind ordeals maze. Not that she misplayed it or anything, just something that was not especially nice for what you would consider the default. And we have Tyros on the spike tile here.
It's time for some steak. I mean, I could use some lunch.
Oh, don't talk about food right now. That's just going to make me hungry.
Fair enough. So she makes her way, goes straight through it, picks up an ice sword, a little bit of cash.
Now, if this is the rod or something that leads to the rod, we will be in commentator no mode, which is quite quick, considering we've only found a single loose in these chaos seeds. We also do find a second katana.
Yeah, so Leggy selling that first katana is sort of erased. She found the second one. Finds an herb, which, of course, we don't know how useful that's going to be yet, but certainly at least it's 5% experience, and we find the other side of the vanilla agama, and this is just more agama.
And more agama is more EXP. This is a nice, juicy chunk of EXP. I'm curious if she will choose to take this a few times. Based off the way that they weren't hitting very hard, I might have considered it, but she decides that she's had enough of this ordeals maze and gets the heck out of Dodge. Rumblefish, go back. Yeah. Please remember. Okay. Nope.
No?
Go back. So
we'll double check his inventory to make sure, but that could be a big thing. So
yeah, that's kind of like Bicky level, although I think it's going to be a lot easier to remember, because at least he got to see the loot at some point. So, if he goes into Temple of Fiends Revisited and then gets loot locked, he'll at least remember that, oh, I've seen the loot. It was on Astos. Versus Bicky, you have no idea what item he has if you forget it. We will check his items, though. Or maybe chat has some big brain, better eyes. Oh, he does have it? Okay. Did he exit and save after Astos, then?
Okay, yeah, I guess he must have. But okay, yeah, thank you.
I missed it.
No, you weren't the only one. It's pretty quick. It's like, yeah, I know he got it, but if you see it in his inventory now, then it's after that wipe. And we can move on. So Leggy is going to check Caravan first before heading east, and no item there, so the shop item must be in Gaia, I believe.
Yes, at this point, the shop item must be in Gaia. So that is another thing that is floater locked, which means at this point there are 2 items that are currently floater locked that we have access to, and then potentially a third once we find that slab. And Rumblefish deciding that, you know what, now's a good time to pick up life. Lacking it earlier definitely hurts, so money no longer an issue. And what is the next play for Rumblefish? He has not checked ordeals. Leggy's most likely going to be going to Waterfall next.
Yeah, and we'll see if her extra levels and extra gear will help, or just RNG can make the difference in how easy it is for you to get through.
Yeah, those ambushing badmen I think are going to still give her a tough time if she gets ambushed, but they clearly are not like so high that it's ambush, you know, every single time. So there is a very good chance that she also just can get through. Rumblefish, meanwhile, making his way over to our deals. We'll see if he has a warp charge yet. I don't know if he has the levels for it.
Yeah, well, and the other big difference I see in their party, so Leggy is disappointing Team Thief, or the Thieves Guild, and leaving that thief on the floor, and he was able to run away from those bad men for Rumblefish, so I think that's the character that actually did it, but Rumblefish certainly ran away from the bad men the second time through. So we'll see if that makes a difference on making it through here.
Yeah, it's kind of a bit of a trade. It's actually like quite literally the 4-person party, 4 levels trade-off in that Leggy may be able to survive them, but she will have a harder time running away, whereas Rumblefish will be much more easily able to run away. Rumblefish running into these sorcerers, I like to say that all enemies that are kind of scary casters in the vanilla game are free fodder in the randomizer. The last time I said that, they had nuke immediately, so hopefully no caster's curse here, but sorcerer is pretty nice EXP for relatively low risk, so kind of nice to clean up.
Well, and they definitely don't have death touch today, and the odds of them getting that back are extremely low.
Yeah, unfortunately, they still, I kind of still swear at the sorcerers every time something else has death touch, because, you got to remember, it's these guys' fault that those people have death touch, even if it's not them directly. Leggy getting greeted by mummies with cremate.
Yep, so, and Rumblefish running into the same thing, so a little bit of synchronicity there, even though we're in different dungeons. Mummies are everywhere. They're the cockroach of FFR.
Yes, pretty much. Luckily, getting everyone out, only having the flame armor to resist them at this point, or sorry, the ice shield at this point to resist them, and no ribbon's been found. The fighter does not have life, so always a little bit sketchy. Zombie D is also going to be giving some good EXP if they can get it down, and yeah, looks like he does. So Rumblefish finally starting to get some levels. The level 11 is not somewhere that I would feel perfectly comfortable on. Ooh, takes the bottom pillar path first.
For ordeals, level 11 is pretty reasonable, but Leggy certainly is level 15 or maybe even 16 now. 15, and certainly you can see that difference in strategy. Both of them, though, have those Fire 3 charges from level 4 magic, and that is making a big difference getting through these packs at this point.
Okay, so she did get the ambush, and those bad men have stun touch. So this is looking precarious. Yeah. So Leggy getting given the goods. Gonna also dive back in though, so just gotta hope that she doesn't get ambushed again.
Yeah, and if this is Rumblefish watching back, then you know that just because it was nasty for you does not mean it was not nasty for Leggy as well. Sometimes you get those dungeons where one runner just doesn't see the ugly stuff and the other one does, and you feel bad. Nope, they're both getting the business in Waterfall. But we've got a pretty even slate here.
Yeah, the ones that I find the worst are things like when Lich 2 has nuke or something like that, because then it's all about turn order. If Lich decides to go first, and that's pure RNG, then you get nuked, versus the other party gets to avoid it and save a bunch of time healing or heal pots, or even if you don't have life, a dead black mage or something like that.
Yeah, or even if Lich 2 just decides to punch that one time, even if it's spell happy or something.
Yeah. they don't call it a randomizer for nothing. I mean, the vanilla game has lots of randomization as well, unless you're playing those like encounter table memorized runs. But the randomizer, it's random for a reason, and that's, you know what, that's what makes it fun. Without the added randomness, you know, you're just getting to press, you know, the same buttons in sequence. But this, you're always on your toes. You never know what you're going to run into, and part of the fun is knowing, you know, did my opponent see that? Will I see that? Will I get a good run this time? So
Yeah, and to me, it's all about having to make interesting decisions. And you know, that whole, we were talking about the parties. Do you keep your thief up and level him, or do you dan him to spread the experience on the rest of your party? I mean, I know different runners will have different approaches to that, and even if they're both really good runners. So
yeah. And even saying that, you know, there's randomness, there's also ways to mitigate that, a lot of ways to mitigate that, and that's why you'll see the best runners consistently having a little bit more success with seeds. It doesn't mean they win every time, and sometimes it's because of, you know, they get outplayed, sometimes it's because of luck, sometimes it's just they have a bad day, but they will do things to mitigate the randomness. For example, the 3-person party with the slightly higher levels that Leggy Starscream had going through ordeals is slightly better equipped to deal with these cremating mummies. Now, that doesn't mean that she was prepared better. It just so happens that that strategic decision turns out it pays off in this particular dungeon. In other cases, the running is more important. So it's all trade-offs.
Yeah, and it's running and it's ambush percents and things like that, and it's actually a fairly complicated game in terms of the mechanics for it. But Leggy does manage to not get ambushed by those bad men. Uses that Fire 3 to sweep them out of the way, so she picks up the experience there. Picks up her ruby from the robot and is going to clean out these chests and exit out. And we'll see where she goes after she visits the old man in the cave.
Yeah, Leggy has also been taking more fights than Rumblefish, just generally throughout this, so she does not only have more experience on each of her party members, but just more experience overall. Rumblefish, meanwhile, about to get back up here for a second time, so it was interesting for the viewer's sake that both of them got ambushed once by that Badman tile, because, you know, if someone got ambushed 3 times in a row, that can be race losing, unfortunately. So in this case, there is no fairness in Rando, but it was quote-unquote fair. Rumblefish wiped again, though, in ordeals, so definitely not having a good time in here.
Yeah, one time he got ambushed by that mummy pack, and this is where I start thinking, okay, if I have life charges or if I'm having a tough time, maybe I stick that thief in front, because with the luck and agility, you get ambushed less often. So when you get first strike more often, so it's one of those small, subtle, strategic decisions that plays into your success in the seed. On the other hand, that thief is not going to take damage like your fighter is, and that first slot will take more damage in fights. And oh man, the man cats have thunder too.
Yeah, I don't think either runner has seen that before. I think both of Rumblefish's previous 2 wipes have been to cremate mummies. So yeah, this ordeals is not a fun place to be.
Yeah, and this is where I start thinking about using power cycles and soft resets to manipulate the encounter table, where a power cycle will put you back on at the very beginning of the encounter table every time, where the soft reset just moves you along. And if you're having trouble with a dungeon, sometimes you go in there and you say, okay, I'm going to burn off 2 encounters and then go in so I can get rid of the nasty stuff and see what's past it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've seen that a few times where if you're running into the exact same nasty encounter every single time and you're taking the exact same route and always going in off a power cycle or a power cycle plus a set number of burns, changing that up can really help. And it looks like he's made that adjustment here, as I don't believe this is the same encounter table that we've been seeing the last few runs.
It's not the same encounter table, but I don't think he's actually been actively manipulating it. He's just been going back in. So maybe that's a question we can ask afterwards, is how much encounter table manipulation is Rumblefish comfortable with?
Yeah, so at this point, once Leggy Scream turns in, goes talks to Sarda and turns in that crown, she will basically just have a 1 dungeon lead on Rumblefish, as he hopefully will be finishing up ordeals here, but has not checked Volcano. Meanwhile, Leggy Starscream has done everything that Rumblefish has done, as well as Volcano.
Yeah, and then we're down to, we have Sky. We can't get into Sea quite yet. We have Ice, and we have Rodless Earth.
And
So,
bottom floor of Marsh.
Shh, we don't talk about Marsh.
But it's Chaos Week. That means
there is
could
no
be...
Marsh.
There is no Marsh. Yes, Oxael is from the Crown Tournament, I believe. Or no, is it from Sarda?
Fair, yeah.
It's from one of them.
It's from Sarda.
Yeah, it was somewhere along the Ruby chain.
Yeah, so that's a good point, Ali. So I was looking over at Leggy's screen and, rather than at Rumblefish, and I'd forgotten that we have Oxael. So we can certainly light that up now that she's visited Sarda, and we'll see how she goes through this.
Rumblefish on to Ordeals 3 for the 3rd time. Hopefully he gets out alive this time, but we will have to see. Doesn't want anything to do with Tyros, doesn't want anything to do with any of this extra stuff. Does not have a soft, which is unfortunate. So...
Yeah, that's one of those things that their softs are always a little expensive the first time you're in Coneria, but if you can pick them up on your way back through before you head out into the open world, having even 1 or 2 of them can really pay off.
Yeah, definitely. And at this point, they've had enough money, so that missing a soft is definitely more of an oversight than a money issue. But I think a lot of people have kind of their routine when they're gearing up, and if you're short on money, it can play havoc, and then you kind of move past that mentally.
Yeah, the other thing is it's actually a strategic choice. A lot of runners will leave someone stoned because then it's a pure potion to bring them back to life rather than a life cast. So that can be a way of conserving resources, especially down in the Temple of Fiends Revisited. Oh wait, I don't want to spend all these life charges bringing back my ablative meat shield, as the thief sometimes gets called by certain runners. So you don't want to bring up that guy that's just there to take hits, but using a pure potion on it, that's a different resource and can make that run a little easier.
Yes, absolutely. And we'll have to see if he decides to de-soft this thief, or de-stone this thief. I especially like having the stoned white mage. If you have a low-level white mage that's going to be of meat shield, having them being able to use a soft on them just to get them up for long enough to cast life and then take a punch, that's a fantastic thing. Meanwhile, Argoyles are just stun touching this party to death. Not quite to death, just to slow land, but very annoying.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering. So she turned in the crown first to get her loot. So as we knew from Rumblefish, that puts us into Rod for Go mode. However, she also had that herb and ran over to turn that in. That was kind of questionable whether you take the ship or the land route, but she gets the herb into the crystal, so now she's going to go up and visit Matoya, and we're going to follow this incentive chain and see where it leads.
Yeah. Rumblefish still fighting this single gargoyle and having to wait for his fighter to get unstunned, as he has nothing left to use against this Argoyle.
I mean, wouldn't you at least punch for those 1 and 3 damage?
Okay, and he gets through. He is holding his breath at this point, hoping to finally get to check these chests and get his final incentive item out of here, which we know is the herb, which turns into the crystal, which turns into the something soon.
Yeah, and then the other thing I'm thinking of, we still have those 2 loose items out there somewhere. We have Bottle, and we know that the vendor item is in Gaia. So I'm starting to sort of think down and try to figure out the end of the logic of this seed. So we still need Floater to open up a couple of locations, but we are at a point where, and here's our floater, so you're welcome for the comm curse there, Leggy. Um, so that does open up the rest of the world, and now we're starting to think, okay, how many places do I need to check? Do I need to go to Ice Cave? Do I need to hunt for these loose items? Can I skip them?
Yeah, I think at this point, you immediately go Gaia, get 2 known incentive items for basically free. After that, I think I would personally do Ice Cave, because just get that last incentive location, and then after that, you gotta then you're in decision time. Because unfortunately, you do not know. At that point, if you have not found the rod, you know that the rod is loose. And you're gonna have to start opening chests. Probably starting with Sky, but some people might go Sea first.
The way I like to think of it is I actually like to go from the endpoints, right? Even if you get the fetch quests in between, you know that those fetch quests are going to end in something. And right now we have 5 end items that we can get. We can get the tail, which is nice but not required, although having that level 1 fade would be really, really nice. We have the rod, and then we have our 3 equipment items, the power bonk, the opal bracelet, and the Thor hammer. And we know that certain ones can be available in the shop, although with a fetch item outstanding, it could be TNT into any of them. So, yeah, we have a lot of options there, and only one of them is required.
Yeah, I think there could be a lot of frustration coming soon if we just end up, going through the rest of our fetch quests and not finding this rod. Is that means we're going to have to start diving some chests. The thing with the tail in this seed is that with the massa is kind of the great equalizer in terms of, hey, I have a massa, well, I guess I don't need to promote nearly as badly as when my primary weapons are katanas or like a defense or something like that. Ooh, we have pretty cheap pro rings here. Those are nice to pick up.
Yeah, everybody can use them. Death protection, 8 absorb, especially if you're looking at 120,000. It's like, yeah, just throw them on all your characters. Make sure you equip them because they're not very useful otherwise. But yeah, and then we'll turn the corner here. So that was a good check by Leggy. We had seen the gold bracelets in Provoca earlier for, I think it was 44,000. And whoa boy.
TNT, and that can turn into anything. So we could be seeing TNT into any of the 5 remaining items that we know are out there. This bottle will also turn into one of them. Ice Cave has one of them. And there are 2 loose, which we have no idea where they are. Classic. The fairy, as is tradition, will give you the slab, and then the slab will turn into the Thor hammer.
But it could turn into the power staff. I mean, it can't, but it could be anything.
leggystarscream, not getting Loopaloopa'd. Also not deciding to turn it in first, gonna go do Ice Cave first. So I think probably gonna be Ice Cave into a Melmond, visit with the translator, and then moving on from there. Rumblefish, meanwhile, gonna be in the air just a little bit after. So yeah, Rumblefish kind of following in Leggy, so they were kind of diverging in routes, but then they kind of got funneled into a single route afterwards. And Rumblefish going to be following in leggystarscream's footsteps. So at this point, Leggy has a little bit higher level party, but only 3 people up. Just about, a dungeon-ish lead, as she has completely finished the... Oh, yeah, sorry, my apologies. I misclicked there. Leggy also has finished Volcano.
Yeah, and she's done a little bit more of the turn-ins too, so, I'd say, 7-8 minutes, something like that, in that range, but yeah, it could always be down to 1 loose item. If that loose item is in Sky or Earth or just anywhere other than Ice, that could turn it around very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. We also at this point have not found a single ribbon, which is a little bit uncomfortable for these runners.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we've got some armor and a shield and pro rings, gold bracelet, so we have most of our end game armor that we would want. We have an end game sword in the mass immune. We've even got an ice sword if we need to have one of these red mages act as backup. But we're still absolutely missing those ribbons.
Yeah. Have we seen Temper?
Yes, Temper was level 5.
Okay.
So we'll have a few charges of it, but that means that Power Bonk would be really nice.
Yeah, that was the only other thing I had, because we have seen fast, so that was the other kind of, if you have a high absorb fiend, having some temper casts can be very helpful in getting those through the Power Bonk or through temper itself.
Yeah, and we do have Lock 2 to take on a high evade fiend, so we're pretty close to being ready. I mean, we could use a few more levels, and certainly we need a rod and a couple more orbs. So Leggy just burning her way through that iron gold. It was a little bit tough, but she, not worrying about these wolves and their poison touch as something that's worth taking the time to get the XP out of.
Yeah, and I mean these fights are not worth very much, so it looks like. Oh, that was it. Okay.
Rumblefish is just clearing out his inventory, and then he's going to pick up these pro rings. He might have. Well, no, that was a copper gauntlet, not a copper bracelet.
And we're about to get our first look at the 6-pack down here in Ice Cave. I think the 6-pack in Ice Cave sounds the best because it's like ice cold, which is exactly what you want. The ones in like Sky are not nearly as appealing.
Yeah, you know, I guess it's always time for one, right? It's always 5 o'clock somewhere. Sun's over the yard arm.
Okay, leggystarscream. Oh, this is some experience, but more mid-game experience than end-game experience, so not exactly what you're looking for, but getting a few levels everywhere is always helpful. Rumblefish, meanwhile, about to get his slab, and we will see what his next steps are.
Yeah, and 5 more checks for Leggy in this last floor of ice before she turns the corner.
This looks like Rumblefish is immediately going to go translate the slab. So we may be seeing what the slab item is first. And interestingly enough, if the slab is the rod, then that means this ice cave dive is going to be unnecessary. On the other hand, if this ice cave dive is the rod, then this slab turn is going to be unnecessary. So, you know, some interest there. I think the key decision here for Leggy is thinking that, you know what, ice cave is not that much slower than this whole slab turn and chain, and I also get to check a bunch of chests on the way in case it is a loose item, so...
Yeah, and let's see, 2 more. Pro ring, well, that doesn't do us any good now, so we're down to just the important chest and this one Ocho, not even a Nacho.
And wow, it is indeed the slab, or the rod. So leggystarscream enters go mode at the 1 hour and 6 minute mark with 1 orb lit.
Yeah, so that's required. So this check Rumblefish is doing is not required. That does not mean it's not desired. I mean, the tail for promotion is going to make a big difference in getting fade for these red. It would be red wizards at that point. Would be very useful in making your way through the. And she's also in making it through the Temple of Fiends, and it's the adamant. So we'll see what that turns into.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this whole, fetch sequence is just going to be leading him further away from ice, but once he finishes it, I am fairly sure he will go to Ice Cave before he starts opening boxes trying to hunt down a loose.
Well, and he'll be able to turn in both of those at the same time. I kind of overlooked that we bought the TNT in Gaia, and we hadn't found a location or an item for it yet. It only turned into the opal bracelet, so I guess that's all that's left of the opal armor after we blew it up. But he'll be able to turn in both the adamant and the TNT together.
Yeah. The opal bracelet, of course, is chest armor, for those of you who may not be as familiar, and it's very good chest armor as well. So definitely it's something that's nice for the end game, not required, but definitely a nice luxury to have.
He doesn't go turn in the TNT. He was disappointed. He turned in the adamant, got the Thor hammer, and just sat there and stared at the dwarf for a second while the dwarf is dancing. It's like,
did he not buy
dude,
it in Gaia?
You're a troll. He might not have. That's a good point. But
Yeah,
we'll check the inventory when we can.
Yeah, I didn't see it there. So
No, I did not see it either. So I think he doesn't have the TNT, which is why he didn't turn it in. So a little bit of inefficiency from him, but it's not going to come back and hurt him, probably.
So Rumblefish going straight down to what looks like the Agama floor. It appears that he is on looking for some loose items at this point, or a ribbon. Meanwhile, Leggy is just in full-on go mode, though checking some chests it looks like here, probably trying to dig up a ribbon is what I would guess is like kind of on her mind.
Yeah, and she has to think, okay, I'm in go mode. I did, let's see, Ordeals was Herb to Crystal to Floater, so that was required to get up to Gaia. Although, no, that wasn't
No.
required at all.
This is a floaterless seed, because the rod was Ice Cave. So, yeah, you did not need to get the floater here, although both of our runners have. Waterfall was required, as that was the ruby.
All right, which led to our Oxyale and our loot. Because so certainly having done extra dungeons does sometimes make you feel behind, but the floater, especially if you get it early on, it can really make up a lot of that time you've lost getting it. But in this case, you got it late. That kind of makes sense.
So we'll have to see how many chests Leggy decides to open here. There's also so many chests there's like a number of free chests in C, a few free chests in Sky, plus other large packs of chests that can be taken for relatively minimal steps if you have warp. And even if you don't, still not too many chests, or too many steps.
Yeah, well, and we definitely have warp, and it's just a matter of how many warps do you use for how many chests. But certainly worthwhile. And then the other consideration is, what are your levels like when you get there? Because if you're still interested in some levels, then a walking grind. We've seen Leggy doing effectively a walking grind this whole seed, where she's not planning on sitting anywhere to pick up levels. She's just picking up her experience as she goes through the seed.
Yeah, but Leggy definitely has a plan. From the way that she's playing, I can see just in the intent immediately going to Earth that she knows she's in go mode. She knows what she's looking for. So calculated play, know exactly how many chests you need. That's kind of what we're looking at here.
Yeah, and I'm more of a completionist, where I'd be checking a little bit more than her here until I found that either a ribbon or a dragon armor. I would be happy with either one, because then I get effectively the night ribbon. I guess I would need a tail too at that point.
Yeah.
I'd also be thinking about, do I really want a power bonk? Because temper was level 5, so you don't have that many charges with it. So that could also make a difference here. Cheesinator interested in that Earth Armory. I call it the Earth 4 with the 5 chest room and being able to warp back. But no, Leggy's going straight for Lich.
Yeah, and I don't blame her. I could see doing the Earth Armor, I can see not. I think both are definitely defensible at this point. Personally, I would be thinking, okay, I'm going to check a bunch of chests in Sky, get my levels. Hopefully I can find a ribbon, or even better, like a loose tail or something, and then get going from there. But Rumblefish about to take on Carry, so with this he will have, actually he will be one orb behind again, unfortunately, because Leggy is just about to take out Lich here. But, getting his first orblet, that is progression towards getting towards the end of this game.
Yeah, he's picked up a lot of gear. He's still only level 13, where Leggy is pushing level 19. So that's another big difference. And she picks up that Thief, so that Thief can start to grab some levels and think about being a backup melee damage with that katana in the end game.
Yeah, no, once again very tail dependent, but
Yeah, and we're a little over an hour in, so this would be a good time to remind everybody. So this is MG Weirdo. I'm here in the booth with the Jat 2980. Dark Moon EX is our restreamer here on Randomania 2. And this is the Chaos Week, the last week of the Swiss rounds of our Final Fantasy Randomizer Spring Tournament 2020. We have two and three runners here playing for that third win that gets them into the last chance qualifier, and that which is the first round of our playoffs. So you win and you stay alive, you lose and you're done for the year. And then Jet, can you give us a little bit of a recap of how our runners have done so far?
Yeah, absolutely. So the run started with a fairly narrow funnel. We got an early key, so they were able to open up a bunch of chests, get some money, and get some gear. However, they were not able to find anything in those chests, so they eventually had to head down to marsh. Both runners wiped a few times in a not-so-pleasant marsh, as it tends to be, and found a loose canal on the top floor, both choosing to orphan the entire bottom half, as Rumblefish made a try at it and wiped, so decided to nope out of there. From there, we saw some small divergence as Leggy went to go clear out the armory and Olive Volcano, lighting her first orb, while Rumblefish decided to go to the waterfall and ordeals. Interestingly, he wiped once at waterfall, and Leggy Starstream followed him after defeating Carrie and also wiped once. Leggy finished up ordeals first before going to waterfall, and Rumblefish quickly followed her to the waterfall. Two ordeals, both of them finding a ruby and not much else. Eventually, this whole chain led to a floater at Matoya, which Leggy Starscream then went to go to Ice Cave to get her rod for Go mode. And that is kind of where we end up now, with Leggy with about a 1 dungeon advantage, just due to a few less wipes in ordeals and just a few less wipes overall, as she's been 3-manning and with slightly higher levels just had a little bit more success. But Rumblefish, just a rod away, needs to head over to Ice Cave, and he will also be joining her in Go mode.
Yeah, that's a great recap. Only thing I'd add is Rumblefish had a really tough time with Waterfall. He wiped 6, 8, 10 times getting through there. Certainly it ended up being required and was worth some of the pain at least.
Yeah.
And he picks up his defense sword on his way down through Volcano.
Yeah, I did like this play by him deciding to go into the Agama floor first before clearing out the armory, as he's kind of saying that, hey, if I find what I'm looking for, I can check the armory later. I can just choose to skip it, but if I don't, then I will go back in. However, unfortunately, he's still lacking he is 1 item away from Go mode, and he knows there's 1 item in Ice Cave, guaranteed. So I'm hoping that he goes and checks that soon, rather than continuing to open chests. Yes, they're looking for ribbons, and I mean, as Leggy Starscream shows, she was in Go mode and still chose to go to Lefane, I think probably hoping to find a power bonk. But every chest that he opens, that he doesn't necessarily need to, is just going to put him further behind if Leggy Starscream decides to put the afterburners on. Silverfire joining us with a raid of 4. Welcome, welcome. We are an hour and 16 minutes in. Rumblefish just needs a rod from Ice Cave to enter Go mode. Leggy Starscream with about a dungeon advantage. And Rumblefish finds a loose tail that Leggy is never, ever going to find.
Yeah, I think she must have. I know I saw her go up that way, but she must not have actually gotten through that trap tile. And yeah, that is an orphan check. She is never going to get that, so she is not going to promote. We do have a Masamune, so that's going to eliminate a lot of the need for promotion, but there's still a lot of armor that she's picked up that would be really useful. It's going to, it's one of those things. It's like you can do these things, but every bit of safety means you're need that many more levels to get through a more challenging Temple of Fiends.
Yeah, but that being said, she does have the levels compared to Rumblefish. She doesn't have the levels, in an absolute term, but she has far more levels than Rumblefish. And critically, she just picked up her first ribbon in Mirage 1. So Sky, as usual, paying off, giving you the goods. We'll have to see how many more checks that she decides to make. But now we're starting to see some clear strategic differences. Leggy, 3 manning, higher levels. Rumblefish with that loose tail, gonna be getting that extra bit of gear, but lower levels, more party members, but also just a little bit of a time disadvantage at this point.
Yeah, the other thing Rumblefish gets is he's going to be able to cast spells on both the ninja and the fighter. So that means I think at level 3 we had both Ice 2 and Heal 3, or Invis 2 rather, and Heal 3 available. He'll have Exit, not so useful, but Fade certainly.
Yes.
So
also fast on that ninja, and the ninja gets to wield a katana, the knight gets life. So definitely gonna make the dive down the down Topher a lot safer, but he's gonna have to hope that Topher's a little bit of a brick wall here, because otherwise Leggy's just gonna be flying through it.
Actually, I don't think the knife gets life. I think that was level 4. But I could be wrong on that. But either way, it's always, when we get to this part of the game, it's always what trade-offs are you going to make? How prepared do you want to be versus how dangerous is the Temple of Fiends actually going to be? You can go in lower. There's people that beat this game at level 18 and 19, but it also requires a bit of luck to get through it.
Yeah, and you were right. I forgot that the White Mage's everything level was level 4 with both Cure 4 and Life there. But the Knight will get to cast Fade, I guess.
Hey, I mean, a little bit of healing and a little bit of clear, especially if you can cast it earlier in a turn to get rid of some of those packs, it can make a difference in how many resources you spend, but it's all about resource management and how much you bring versus how much you need. Every potion you bring that you didn't use, you didn't need.
Absolutely. And Leggy finding a gold ring here, which is a nice pickup, considering that she hasn't gone back to pick up those very, very expensive gold bracelets in Elfland.
Provoca, I think.
Provoca.
Yeah, 40-something thousand, but
43,000, yeah.
But she's got the cash for that now. It's just a matter of time, and without promotion, there's no other reason to really go back there.
Leggy about to enter the Bridge of Destiny. Get your bless RNGs in chat for a robot friend. I think at this point, that would actually be a pretty nice find, as the levels would be a great boon, as she hasn't spent a ton of time on in Sky to get those levels from a walk and grind.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised she's willing to run from these slimes but I guess she looked at her charges there. They are Fire 3 does a fantastic job against them, so that's one of the things that would take them out quickly.
Oh, also this fight is a ton of EXP for relatively little risk, but I think Leggy just is in full on, I'm gonna go fast. Meanwhile, this air sucks, and it's unrunnable. So...
Oh, and speaking of suck, here we have something I don't think Leggy saw. These Spectres have heal 3. So it's not really doing any damage to Rumblefish's party, it's just wasting his time. Because this 9-pack, every single enemy gets healed. Oh, and then they have Frost on top of it.
Okay, it gets away, but yeah, that is just a big waste of time, unfortunately.
Yep, heal 3 and heal 2, so stay away from the Spectres.
Airs are so evasive. Oh, you can run from this one, but sometimes you even have to cast Lock 2 just to get a hit on those unrunnables, which is just very annoying if you don't have non-elemental sweepers. Rumblefish also checking that chest that Leggy orphaned.
Only a wooden shield and some gargoyles on the spike tile, so not something terribly useful. Gonna use the warp trick to head back up and get this done in one round, I think. Oh, but he fell down the wrong hole.
Yeah.
That's...
Ultimately, with Exit, this is not going to cost a ton of time, but, definitely a little bit unfortunate. Leggy Starscream, meanwhile, taking on TO1, going with, fast strats on that Massa-wielding fighter. Black Shirt getting those free Ice 2 charges for some chip damage. Fog 2 getting that Absorb up, as once again, she does not have the greatest of endgame armor, although definitely some nice armor. And Tia has Stone Touch, so that is going to be a little bit annoying. Luckily, I don't know if I don't think the ribbon prevents the Stone Touch, so everyone is at risk here. But getting Invis 2 stacks off going to help make this party a little bit safer. But Tia stoning everything it sees. Okay, yeah, I know there's some weird interaction for ribbon versus touch effects, in that it doesn't always protect, but
yeah, the whole resisting touch effects is a little spaghetti code, but Leggy doesn't end up needing it. Swings at Masa, hits for 428, lights her third orb, so she just needs to go down to the Sea Shrine, not fall under the Siren Song of the Mermaids, and go chop up a giant squid.
And Sea Shrine is such a fast dungeon to go mode when you don't have to go, check those out of the way chests or go into right side to go visit the mermaids.
Yep, but I'm not sure she's going there right away, so...
Gonna go turn in that...
turn in the adamant from Lefane. And
that's not what she's looking for.
See the dwarf that's taunting her.
Rumblefish nopes out of Ice Cave after getting that rod. He knows he's in go mode. And we will see what his next play is now.
To save his progress. That's a very smart move. And you just beat me to it there, Jet.
Leggy's actually finding a Vorpal. Not going to be of great use to her, as she is never finding that orphan tail in Volcano, but still opening chests, so clearly still looking for something. I guess a second ribbon, or maybe just not quite confident in her endgame gear, but this is going to every chest that she opens is going to continue to slow her down, whereas I expect Rumblefish... did he skip first? It looked like he skipped first floor Mirage, so he is basically saying, I am done with opening chests. However, unfortunately, that means he just skipped a ribbon.
Yeah, and that is a big difference. The only thing I can really think of that Leggy should be looking for... Oh, she finds the X-Cal, which is actually useful. Well, no, sorry, you're right. It's still promotion locked. But she's either looking for that tail for promotion, or she's looking for the power bonk.
Yeah.
And both of those are loose.
Yeah, exactly. We know they're both loose, and she could find the power bonk, but this is just... it's just going to continue to cost her time until she gets either what she's looking for, which at this point is unlikely, is the power bonk is in exactly one chest out of all the things that she has remaining. And we know she will not find the tail, so I guess a few more ribbons might be nice, but not guaranteed. Rumblefish, meanwhile, deciding to take some fights in Sky. I think he has to at this point, as he is still quite low level. Perhaps not that fight, though. That one's no fun.
Yeah, Leggy never did go back and get that ice shield out of Northwest Castle, and probably thinking about it there as she found a flame shield. So nice armor, but not, doesn't complement the resists like it could.
Always looking to pair opposites attract, they say. So you want a flame armor and an ice shield, or an ice armor and a flame shield to maximize your resistance coverages. You don't get double, flame resist or anything like that.
Yeah, once you're resistant, you're resistant. That's all that matters. And we did say nope to Cope as we head on through. Cope being one of the NPCs there that sometimes gets in your way. And we'll see Leggy checking the first floor chest. So she is interested, and this is kind of a strange play to me. I'm not sure I understand it completely.
I understand it. I would not necessarily make the same play, but I understand where she's coming from. If you're going to take the time to check the Cardia Isles, yes, those are free, but she may be thinking that she just needs items. So she is clearly still in looking for item mode, and therefore checking these chests that are not, all of the steps out of the way. I can see motivation for it, but Rumblefish, meanwhile, is just going to, oh my god, not even checking the 4-pack here in the top left, or in the left. So Rumblefish has decided that he is ready for the end game. He's promoted. He's got a Massa. He has no ribbons, but
he can at least use that Aegis shield to help out a little bit. So he's got a little bit more protection than Leggy does from some of those things. But really why I'm questioning Leggy's choice to pick up that set of chess is that she skipped all of Earth and she skipped almost all of Sky, where
Yeah.
you have some relatively dense, you can get more chess for the same number of steps.
Yeah, I understand. I definitely agree with that.
So
There's always a kind of constant struggle, which is like I'll get an item later, or I'll check some more chests. So I'm going to skip this one, and I'm going to skip this one, and then you start running out of chests that you can check / skip, and then you start thinking, oh shoot, maybe I need to start checking a few more. It's unfortunately not quite a full-on, black and white system where it's like once you decide you're skipping, and once you decide you're going, and that you can kind of start getting uncomfortable.
Yeah, I mean, and it's always what's going through the runner's mind, and obviously it's a little different when you're sitting in the hot seat and you've got the controller and are working your way through it, and a little different when we're sitting here watching from through the tubes.
Absolutely. So I expect she'll be checking Sharknado for sure, maybe skipping the one that Spiketail blocked, but we'll see if she checks anything else here. Ooh, that's a nice chunk of money, but not what she's looking for. And she is going to step on that Spike Tile. Takes a little bit of free EXP on this Sphinx.
Yeah, meanwhile, Rumblefish making his way down the Bridge of Destiny. We've got a couple of Bless RNGs out. Leggy did not get lucky enough to encounter our robot Overlord, but Rumblefish finds some Gurnagas and air elementals, which are unrunnable. Only one air elemental for now, but not what you'd be looking for, and certainly not a fight you want to be unrunnable.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe he picked up some Fade Charges, but I'm not seeing him using them, so maybe he's saving them, but Fade Charge is a good way to get through these airs. Because my goodness.
Yeah, I don't know that he actually went and picked up Fade, so it's been an hour and a half since we started the seed. They checked that White Magic shop in Canaria first thing, and and that goes with Ali's Gerbrap's question. It was Fade was White Magic level 1 slot 4, so promotion locked. So it's in the 4 slot, so it's available to Red Wizards and Fighters, or Red Wizards and Knights. Yeah, I guess I don't know my vanilla spells as well as I could.
Well, it's because the Ruse slot is so hype in the vanilla game for your White Samurai strats.
White Samurai is legit, Ruse, Masamune, but of course you actually have to be able to get to Masa in vanilla, which is not always fun.
Maybe in like the finals of this tournament or something, we'll see a gentleman's agreement or something to, mandatory opening of the vanilla Masa chest.
We have actually had that in an earlier race. I think Bratster and maybe Ragnarok or Gouda, one of these sort of younger veteran runners, they actually had a gentleman's agreement to go down and check some of the chests in the Temple of Fiends.
So leggystarscream lighting her 4th orb at the hour and 31-minute mark, and she is ready for the endgame. Well, she has everything she needs for the endgame, but we will see if she feels like she's ready for the endgame, because she has been showing a little bit of uncertainty on how ready she feels. Meanwhile, Rumblefish taking on Tia, moving that fighter down to the bottom slot, putting his eggs in that basket, using some fast. Tia not punching very hard, but Invis 2 goes out anyways, and leggystarscream is going into Mermaids. So she is not feeling good about her gear at this point.
Yeah, and as Cheesinator said earlier, these sea snakes are not our friends today with that Fire 3. That is not a fun encounter.
Yeah. And I really have to be wondering what she's looking for. I guess at this point she's looking for the loose items, basically exclusively. a second ribbon would be nice, but definitely not a necessity. But I think the power bonk or the tail is probably the two things top of mind. But you have enough casts of temper at this point. You have a reasonable amount of casts. Yeah, you have
Yeah, I
all
mean
the casts
it's
of fast
level
in the world.
5, but you have enough to get through 80% of Temple of Fiends, 90%, and then you could actually, if it ends up being tough, then you're not really losing all that much time by going and grinding at that point. And Silverfire saying they would like a second ribbon, and what do you know? So we have a chat curse, cursing Leggy with that second ribbon here.
Chat bless, chat bless. Now, does Leggy decide to exit out here? Or okay, she's gonna clear out mermaids. Obviously, she will exit out afterwards. But
And now we've got that yin yang going with our ice and fire, ice armor there. Pick up there.
I like this decision by Rumblefish to go and pick up wall. If he's going to be going ribbonless, which is kind of what he's basically stated his intent that he will be doing. He's saying, you know what, I am going to pick up wall, though, at the very least.
Yep, he's just going to make sure that he does pick up enough levels to where he has casts, because I think he's still a little bit low. He's like level 19 now, and in chat they're coming through telling us he needs level 26 on those red mages, so he's got a bit of XP to gain before he can actually use that, so I hope he realizes that.
Yeah, and these sea snakes giving him the business with Frost, with Fire 3. Leggy, remembering those peds. Also, there's mud gulls here as well, I believe. Though they're a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, the rock gulls with Blizzard.
Yeah.
But you have ice armor for your fighter. We know that there's an ice shield in one of these chests, and we've got ribbon, so you could gear up a couple of your different characters and have some resistance to it. But yeah, I'm with Ali. The peds are a great mid game grind, but they're not a great end game grind. So, but maybe you should just remember that things were in here and not necessarily which one was which.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what happened. But that's shouldn't be an issue. Now, the Blizzard's given these low-level party members the business, which might have been what she wanted to level up, but Rumblefish about to go into Sea Shrine.
Yep, and Leggy, hits level 25 on fighter and one red mage, so we're getting those levels, and she's going to go back in, so she's happy with just having these two available.
Yeah, and I mean, with that thief just being a thief and not a ninja, I think you just are accepting the fact that, that thief is not going to be playing a major part, so getting that fighter up to a nice high level, so that way they can survive lots of hits, survive a nuke, getting that red mage up above 400 HP. Those things will all be big helps here.
Yeah, and with your two red wizards being able to cast that just life, that turns your thief. You don't waste any healing on them, and that turns them into the proverbial ablative meat shield, where they're just there to take that one hit and die, and you're not. Again, it's resource management, and you're just choosing what resources you want to use on them.
Leggy deciding that it was a little bit too close to call. Didn't realize quite how low her party was. Going to do some quick heal 3 strats here and get back onto this grind. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing her step outside and save some of her progress before too long here.
Yeah, I mean, these blizzards are doing fairly consistent damage, but if you get 4 of them, you could be seeing a decent amount of damage there. And yeah, she's going to at least save. We'll see if she goes back in.
Yeah, at level 27, I mean, I'd feel pretty confident just going for it. Then again, I would have felt pretty confident going for it at 23 or 24, and probably have just wiped out a Topher.
I am in the exact same boat. I think I may have too optimistically gone in. Ooh, going in with only 65 heal pots, though. I mean, we do have a bunch of casts of heal 3, but that always... I've run out of heal pots a few runs down here, just after Tia or just before Tia, and that feels really bad, so... hopefully we're not seeing a bunch of nukes, because those are really the ones that I find burns down your heal pot supply is just if you get nuked a bunch of times.
Yeah, and not just nuke, but any sort of AoE cast, especially from these packs. Even a lightning 2 will, it's doing 20 damage a pop, but by 9 enemies, that's 200 damage to your whole party. That's significant healing that you need to get back from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheesenator pointing out in chat that he would keep the fighter in the top slot here. Yeah, having the thief at the top slot for your fiend fights is nice to be a meat shield, but against the trash mobs, you want the thing with the higher absorb to reduce the amount of kind of reduce the healing burden, so you can use less heal pots. Having more absorb up front just reduces the amount of healing you'll need to do.
Yeah, I mean the benefit of having a thief in the first spot is ambush and first strike chances, but with that being a relatively low level thief, it's not going to give you as much of a benefit. And so that thief is not really giving you the benefit of being in the first slot.
Yeah, I think at this point the initiative difference is probably not even positive, because the thief is so much lower level. So Rumblefish, meanwhile, he is checking some chests, which is not what his intention was on Sky. Once again, seeing some interesting, like, oh no, I might need something plays, as he skipped like the 4 freest chests in Sky 3, the ones that are just a few chests for that high chest density, but going, down into C, taking a few chests down here. So, some flipping back and forth, both runners kind of not happy with their gear situation. And Leggy Starscream finds the eye grind tile in the entrance to the loot room.
Yeah, and asked again, so asking if Rumblefish has the muscle. Yes, he does. We both runners found that pretty early with the in the Dwarf Armory.
Dwarf Armory, yeah.
So, Leggy took that third eye grind a second time before going back through. Did take a minute just to validate her run, but is now on her way through, has used that loot. So, we're down into the depths, and we're trying to make our way through to the earth floor.
And that's not something you see every day, that a slime survives a Fire 3 cast. And those slimes have some HP this time.
Yeah, and we're seeing a life charge just used for nothing. Really, this is when you start using those life charges just to bring up the thief for the fiend refights, but not necessarily when you're getting through all of these packs of enemies that you don't know what AoE skills. I mean, we just lost a life charge for no benefit there.
Yeah, not only that, the other thing that we were pointing out is that she brought in limited heal pots, and her heal 3 shares the level with life, right? So every time that she has to use heal 3, she's also losing life charges. Another thing that is a small thing is that by having the fighter in the second slot here, it's making it more likely for her red mages to get back road, which can be a bigger risk for the later fiends, but even against Lich, not ideal.
Yep, and we have Lich 2 on the right side, but that goes away pretty quickly. But Rumblefish pulls Kraken 1. Kraken hits a lot, but didn't do a lot of damage to that fighter, while Rumblefish returns the favor for 453. This Kraken is not going to last very long with this fighter swinging like this.
Misclicks a harm 4 there, but no harm done.
Yeah, that was beautiful, chat. Literally no harm done. Does get the bonus encounter here, the water elementals, before he lights that third orb, actually, sorry.
Yeah, just Earth remaining, and Earth, a pretty slow dungeon to walk through, but at least you get to go mode it. Leggy Starscream about to take on Carry 2 here. Carry, kind of the first of the major gatekeepers, can punch hard, can back row, can cast nuke, but the lower potential HP pool does make her a little bit safer than the future fiends, and doesn't punch nearly as hard as, say, Kraken. Here we go, Carry 2 coming up. So we're going to go fight, defense strats, fast strats, and... Okay, was that 2 fast cast? Oh no, Fog 2. Okay,
The
that's what's
Fog
going
2,
on.
yeah.
And yeah, and Heal 3 was the 3rd level, actually. So Heal 3 does not share with Life, so that is good for her healing sake. Fast goes out, and we will start to see some swings here. Yeah, so that fighter at half maximum evade with the Invis 2 charge and the defense sword, but Carrie getting hit pretty hard here.
Yeah, getting hit reasonably hard. Oh, and then the fighter comes through. 10 hits, 802, knocks down Carrie 2. So we are
Carrie
through
2.
and on to, in my opinion, the worst floor of this dungeon.
Absolutely. I mean, it's got a lot of walking. It's got the most dangerous enemies. Well, not the most dangerous enemies, but because Tia's floor is so short, if you're not getting the vanilla massa, this floor is always much worse. But it looks like you're getting some ambushes here, which is nice. Meanwhile, Rumblefish going through to light his last orb, but he's also still checking chests. So after skipping a bunch of chests in Sky, deciding that he needs to do some chests in Earth, obviously feeling the lack of a ribbon, but still just, giving up chest density in choosing
In
the
an
best.
earlier dungeon, yeah.
And here we go, Kraken 2. Leggy trying to figure out what to do. Okay, yeah, so going for some defensive strategies again, getting those Invis 2 casts out, which are invaluable against Kraken. Black Shirt goes out, which, not, just doing chip damage, but that thief mostly there to take the hit. Kraken punches, but not doing much at all. That was only 25 damage, so...
Yeah, and only 2 hits, so that means that Invis 2 actually made a big difference there already.
Yeah, but even without Invis 2, even if Kraken hits 8 times, that's still only going to be doing 100 damage to that fighter. So this is not the scariest Kraken that we've ever seen. That being said, back rows still can happen, but Invis 2 casts doing some work.
Well,
These fiends, not
critical hits happen too, but no, Kraken 2 does not get any of that done.
So these fiends not looking too scary yet, but how about just Commentator Curse it? Tune in to find out as we are about to take on Tia 2.
Yeah, Leggy doesn't even stop to heal up separately for this fight. She says she's already got enough, just goes straight on in, is happy with her setup. And again, we're going with some defensive strats that chip damage from the Black Shirt and fast, and Tiamat too hitting a little bit harder than Kraken with that 176 on the fighter.
Yeah, we'll have to see how how effective these punches are, as those are really what's going to be telling. The slightly limited temper charges playing a little bit of, being at play a little bit here, but still plenty to go through both Tia and Chaos. 10 hits get through. This is not a dodgy Tia.
Yeah, so unfortunately that's a level that we do have a lot of spell charges on. I guess we didn't buy it. But I thought Lock 2 was level 2. I don't see it there. Maybe it was level 3 and we ran out of spots.
Yeah, but 10 hits, 462. This is not an evasive Tia. So we may see an evasive Chaos, but lack of Lock 2 not going to be causing some problems. And this this Tia is going to be going down shortly. But Leggy Starscream getting a little bit dangerously low on charges for Invis 2 and Fast. Now, she has enough to get Fast, but minimal Invis 2 charges, so going to be depending on that defense sword. Using her remaining heal pots here, she did get through, but not healing, and playing a little bit scared, or not scared, a little scary for us on some of those fiend fights, but looks like she's going to get 2 Chaos at full health.
We noticed at the end of that fight there, she was using heal 3 in combat because Tia 2 was punching that fighter and was doing a big chunk of damage, 170, 200 damage a hit, and so she needed to use those to get through, and was one nuclear or nuke away from likely having to take a reset.
Leggy Starscream taking on Chaos, going with Temper and Fast. Yeah. Oh. Okay, so going with 1 cast of Invis 2, a defense, and a Fast, as well as the Thief just sitting there ready to get punched, doing some chip damage. Black Shirt goes off, doing about what you would expect. Defense cast goes off, get a good turn order here. So Chaos punches 3 hits, 141. So this Chaos definitely still being able to hit. Defense, another defense, 1 more Invis 2 charge, and you should be at max evade for that fighter. And Chaos comes out with Nuke turn 2, so punch hard and Nuke. Both red mages do survive. Fog 2 coming out, buffing up the Absorb, but those red mages in some dire straits without the power bonk. I think it's going to be important to get some temper charges off here.
Leggy choosing to go with heal 3 to try to bring the red mages back up and get that last temper charge off on the other red mage.
So fighter swings 5 hits, 123. That will get it done, but won't get it done quickly. The unribboned red mage goes down. Does this one have temper charges remaining? Oh
If
boy,
one does, this is the one that does. Yeah, 272 in chaos with that free turn out with the ink, helping out a little bit.
Okay, 3 temper charge remaining. That's a really good sign, because that does mean that this fight will speed up. And the one thing you don't want to see right now is that chaos getting back around to nuclear or to nuke. Temper's going out. Fighter starting to do some work. 7 hits, 213. This is a fairly high absorbed chaos, as that's a 2-tempered fighter with fast, not doing a heck of a lot. But still, this will get it done slowly. You just need to avoid a few more. Okay, chaos getting in 8 damage, 1 hit, not a big deal. 8 hits, there's the damage we need. Temper doing the work you want it to do. Heal 3 goes out as she knows. At this point, she just needs to survive. 9 hits, still surviving. Chaos with a ton of HP here, but this fighter will get this done. So unless we see, you know, nuke and some turn order, this chaos will be down for the count. And with that, Leggy Starscream finishes.
And Leggy Starscream finishes in first place with an official SRL time of 1 hour 49 minutes and 9 seconds. And while Rumblefish is fighting Lich 1, trying to light his 4th orb and go through, and we will see Leggy Starscream we will get her into the booth here in just a minute for an interview.
Yeah, and that was, you know, got through that chaos. Those temper charges really paying off. The extra health that she got really paying off. As if that red wizard had gone, or red mage had gone down to that nuke, and that was a high roll nuke. You know, that 30-40 HP that they had left really changed that fight. As if that red mage had gone down, that fighter was going to be doing, you know, 200 damage per hit, and that chaos had looked at, we don't know exactly, but over 2,000 HP, so above his vanilla HP.
Yeah, I would say we were pushing 3,000 before that last hit of 1,100, so certainly rolled up in the health.
Yeah, so I would have been, I think that was a wipe if she did not have those extra levels, because the fighter doing 200 damage a turn, that nuke's going to come back around, lack of healing magic, and that fighter would not have been long for the world. So good job to making those adjustments.
Yeah, GG's, and I mean certainly some small things you can think about there. I did notice that the nuke max rolled against the thief, but then turned around and min rolled against the fighter, so only 200 damage there. And we had, I think, in mid 300. So one of the, you know, relatively high damage against those 2 red wizards. And here we have Leggy in the chat. Sorry, chat.
Oh, it's all good.
GG's, Leggy.
GG, Leggy.
Thank you. That was a fun one.
Yeah, for sure. There was definitely lots going on. Yeah, so why don't you give us your initial impressions? You said it was fun?
Yeah, no, I had a blast. Getting that early key meant that I got to do some interesting routing, just running around opening the boxes. When I pulled that early Mazmoon, I was super happy. The magic was a little exciting, but
well, you did request good red friendly white magic. You didn't say anything about black magic.
Yeah, I mean, and it would have worked. I just never found the bloody tail.
Yes, so the tail, would you like to know where the tail was?
Sure, tell me.
The tail was in your orphaned hairpin chest in Volcano. Behind a spike tile.
Of course it was.
Yeah, so
the one in that pair right up north of the armory behind the spike tile.
Yeah, and like I looked at that chest, I'm like, no, I don't have the resources to deal with the spike tile again. And one of the stories of my life is that I say, okay, I'm gonna do about half of armory, then go down, kill carry, then come back and do the other half of armory. And then I just never do the other half of armory. Luckily this time it didn't punish me.
yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, missing a tail, that's not the worst thing you could have skipped in that chest. If, you know, that was a loose fraud, this would be a very different seed. So,
Oh,
you know,
yes.
the tail was the tail was definitely nice, as you could have learned Fade, get some fast charges on a ninja, have a ninja wielding a katana, upgrade your armor, etc. But it definitely was not 100% necessary, as you showed. So yeah, something I wanted to discuss was you kind of went back and forth, it seemed, on how many chests you wanted to open. What was kind of going through your mind as you were going through that kind of go mode clears?
So early on, before I knew I was in go mode, obviously you want to open all the boxes you can, but
Hmm.
some boxes are just too out of the way that it's not worth it. No one's going to open the red D chest. But until I found that canal, I was definitely in open every single gosh dang box mode.
Hmm.
As for where I was greeting versus where I wasn't,
Hmm.
when I was going through things like Earth and Sky, it's like, okay, I know the standard set of chests I get because I'm still only on one ribbon. I really want to find that tail. There's a couple of nice pickups I could get there.
Yeah.
And so I went through there. And when I got to Sea Shrine, almost went mermaids first, and then I'm like, nah, let's just do Kraken first.
Okay.
And when I got out of that, I I stopped because okay, it's Topher time. Am I ready for Topher? The answer in my head was probably, but I feel like taking it safe today. So I went back, pulled that ribbon out of mermaids, ground up a bit, and then decided to go in.
Yeah, and we were saying that while the ribbon maybe didn't make the difference, those extra levels you did, I think were the difference between your red mages surviving that nuke from Chaos. And we were saying that if they did not survive and that fighter didn't get any temper charges, that was looking like a wipe on Chaos. So those levels really paid off for you here.
Yeah, and like the ribbon definitely helps because you don't worry about any of the
Hmm.
AOE and death magic anymore.
Hmm. Oh, well, the ribbon
Uh,
always, a big benefit, but those extra levels were the ones that like the seed teetered on those, and you came out on the right side of it.
Yeah,
and
and
then
like
I actually wanted to ask you about the experience too. Not There were several places where it seemed like you found the four Agama tile right at the end of ordeals, and you really seemed to like pick up your experience along the way. So if you could tell us a little bit about your approach to your levels throughout the game too.
be greedy. Um, in the sense of I try to take encounters as I go. I'm a huge proponent of what's known as the pop grinded motion, where you just take encounters while walking to and from Lefane, as
Mm.
opposed to just sitting there and grinding on the Peninsula of Power. Um, I don't really like taking grind tiles that aren't easy to get back to just in case the enemy has something nasty lurking under the hood.
Hmm.
I was definitely considering going back for that Iron Golem, but I figured by the time I was ready to go back for it, walking all the way back down into ice was just going to be too much.
Yeah, and funnily enough, that amazing grind tile was in Temple of Fiends Revisited. That eye tile.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I'm like, I'll just take an extra walk over there on my way back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we weren't quite certain if that was a misstep or intentional, but um, because it was you only took that one extra time, but it certainly wasn't a bad thing to do.
Yeah, it I, it was definitely a misstep. Don't tell anyone.
Well, but no, runners never make mistakes.
No,
Everything you do is intentional, unless it turned
absolutely.
out bad, in which case it's the caster's fault.
Yeah, because obviously, I don't know, but you clearly commentator cursed me there somehow.
Yeah. One other question I had for you was when you were going through ordeals, what was your thought process around your thief? Were you like you kept them in the first slot? Were they there to just be a meat bag, or were they there for what was the thief doing for you?
So the thief does a couple of things for me. As you notice, I kept bringing my thief up and down and up and down and up and down because sometimes you really want that run chance.
Mm.
Sometimes it's worth it just to have them there to be an extra bag of hit points to eat. Hopefully a melee punch or two. And keeping the thief in the front row actually improves your odds of getting a first strike.
Yeah, we were wondering if that was kind of the primary intention of that's why you were keeping it up there. So
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was just like a combination of factors, and like one of the things I definitely did was I wanted to concentrate the XP on the 2 red mages and the fighter, but having some health on the ninja so that you have that extra HP and the ability to run away from things in Topher is never a bad thing.
absolutely.
And in the background, Rumblefish, so he had just lit his 4th orb about the time you were headed in. He had a lot worse time in some of the nasty areas of the seed, but he is taking on Kraken 2 and, has his defensive strats up. So that was one of the big differences in this seed was waterfall and ordeals and
Yes.
making it through and without wipes. So I guess that routing decision, and if you could talk about that, ordeals versus waterfall versus volcano, and then also maybe how many times you go back into a dungeon if it's not treating you well.
So, Volcano, I felt, well, a little. I would say it was overconfident, except it worked. In my abilities to go into Volcano, get some levels, and take out carry.
That's called calculated when it works.
Yeah. Plus, Volcano has a bunch of boxes, and at the time, I'm still looking for loose items. Granted, I didn't get the loose item in Volcano, but let's not talk about that part.
Yeah.
And
No, you totally didn't skip the one loose item in that dungeon.
Skip 2 chests. Skip the 1 loose.
Yeah. And after that, it's like, okay, that didn't pan out. Galaxy braining my way out of, what could have been very important. Let's go, because I've got my canoe at this point, so I can do ordeals, I can do waterfall, I can check the on-rack and caravan shops because I'm still hunting down the vendor item.
Yep.
And since I was, on the Crescent Lake side of the world, ordeals was the first one I get to. I didn't have that much trouble at ordeals. Like, I reset a couple of times just to reset my encounter table when I did some bad warps in the teleporter maze because I didn't have warp at the time. Straightforward. Waterfall, on the other hand.
Yeah, that bad man tile, eh?
I got through it second try.
Yes.
But what really had me scared were the mummies with whatever AoE they had.
Cremate, yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, so we saw that for both of you guys. Nightmares had glance and glare.
Yeah.
So both stone and death.
Yes.
And then Mancats in ordeals, you didn't get to them, but Rumblefish did. They had thunder.
I might have seen them elsewhere then. Because I definitely got thundered down by something. Maybe it's just another copy of it somewhere in the pool.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were bones with thunder early in Marsh, and both of you guys ran into that.
Oh my god, those sucked.
Yeah. Rumblefish, meanwhile, just to quickly, Rumblefish is on Chaos, taking him on. You got through Chaos by the skin of your teeth. Rumblefish, with his fully promoted party, so far looking okay, but his health pools are a little bit low, and Chaos is about to hit nuke. So we'll have to see how he survives here. Going with similar Invis strats, less uses of the defense sword, more uses of Invis on his red wizards, but getting those charges off pretty safely. So his party's at an okay level. Chaos comes out with Inferno. Everyone down to below 100 HP, except for that fighter at 405. Temper goes off. Ninja doing some work, 3 hits, 127, but this fighter is ready to swing as he's got a bunch of temper charges here. Also, Cure 4 on those red wizards. So here to get some healing done. And more temper charges.
Not having that Cure 4 was definitely something that I was sweating about.
Oh boy, speaking of sweating about, there's the nuclear, or the nuke. The fighter goes down to 93 HP, has the defense charge. Chaos swings, hits for 17, 76 HP. Defense charge goes off.
Come
He's at maximum
on!
evade. Starts swinging. Tornado goes off, and he wipes. Oh, that chaos.
Yeah, he had enough invis charges. He did not need to run that second defense, although I'm not sure another swing would have made the difference there.
Yeah. I think the only adjustment, he didn't know the nuke was coming, so he was trying to keep his party as a whole up. But the Cure 4, I think he was casting on his ninja. And unfortunately, that just did not get the job done. So Rumblefish takes a wipe.
And he does forfeit out, so we'll see if he's interested in an interview, so he'll come in just a moment.
Awesome. And yeah, it looks like we are okay on the calendar. So we will get to hear a little bit from our other runner on this very, very interesting race. Well, while we wait for him, I think we did. Yeah, so we just wanted to kind of mention that the Rumblefish probably wiped in Ordeals and Waterfall a combined 10 to 12 times. So that was really an area where you just picked up a lot of steam. And the mass AoEs really punished his 4-man strat versus your 3-person, you would take a few hundred damage, but you were still able to survive and get out of those fights. So, those cremate mummies were much less deadly to you.
The other big difference I thought there, not just the 3-man versus the 4-man, but also that because you had gone Volcano first, you actually picked up a few more levels. You had a little bit more XP across your whole party too, so that made the difference a little bit stronger. And then of course you went Ordeals, Waterfall. He went Waterfall, Ordeals.
Yes.
Yeah, most days of the week, I don't hate going. For me, like, I try to avoid it because if I can route in doing avoiding going there until I have the Oxy Ale, I'm super happy.
Mm-hmm. Of course, in this case, that was not possible, as the Ruby was what led to the Oxy Ale. So you went there begrudgingly, but got what you needed.
Indeed.
And here we have Rumblefish joining us in the booth here, so GG's.
GG.
Hey, thank you much.
Yeah, that was a bit of a tough seed for you, eh? The beginning of the seed. You did pretty well through Marsh, but then those first 2 incentive dungeons did not give you a good time.
No, they didn't. I was hoping that Leggy Starscream would also be not having a good time, so that that we should be a little more even. But she seemed like she finished quite a bit ahead of me, so I guess that she had a more favorable path.
She took Volcano first and was 3-manning. We were actually just talking about this before you got into the booth. So she had a few more levels and a decently higher HP pool to get through those 2. So she took a wipe to those, ambushing badmen in Waterfall, but got through Ordeals and Waterfall otherwise without too much other concern. Running into, somewhat similar packs, but, maybe through a combination of just the more levels, higher HP, and just a little bit of RNG, just made it a little bit easier through there.
I see. So it all comes down to choices, as it usually does in this randomizer.
Yes, absolutely. Choices and a little bit of randomization. I think that is the rando creed.
Yep. But I kind of I wish I went up to Chaos, which is really also kind of a bummer. I guess I kind of wanted to end my tournament with a little bit stronger finish, but what could I say? I mean, this was a tough seed for me.
Yeah, and that happens. I mean, sometimes you can make a different routing decision, and that time, Volcano was the one that has wipes everywhere, impossible spike tiles. Something that did benefit you a little bit actually was that Leggy was unwilling to take that top left Volcano chest with the loose tail. She actually did everything except she just orphaned that chest and the red D chest and was searching for the tail far and wide. So that was a nice pickup for you.
Okay, well, that was 1+ for me then.
So as this tournament kind of comes to a close for you, I just kind of want to, if you have anything else for the seed, absolutely feel free to share. But I kind of just wanted to say, give you an opportunity to share your thoughts if you had any thing? Any advice for Leggy as she goes into the last chance qualifier?
Well, I was in the last chance qualifier last year's tournament, and I mean, I would just say practice and be prepared because you have a really thin margin. You have to beat multiple players in order to advance to the next round. So it takes that is one tough race. So just be prepared. And I mean, I'm just happy as it's all about the fun of the game. So what can I? I mean, it was just glad that we had such a great turnout of runners this year, and all around, just I'm glad I stuck it through to the end.
Yeah, awesome. And we are always happy. Like we cheer for all our runners. We're always happy that everyone can stick around, fight all the ways to the end. Here within 10 minutes or 15 minutes of getting through that last chance qualifier, a few less waterfall wipes. So that was a really well fought tournament for you, Rumblefish, and we're glad you guys were able to do it. An interesting draft, although nothing too crazy. What was your motivation for that?
Oh, I just I like a thief. Because I think they're pretty helpful in the beginning of a seed when you might need to do some adventuring into some dangerous places, but don't have a lot of. So having a guaranteed run is always nice, and then they can also pick up some black magic spells after you promote. So I'm pro thief. That's why I chose the thief as the last one. The fighter, of course, is pretty self-explanatory.
And Leggy, are you just pro red mage?
I'm pro having a mix of melee and magic.
Mm-hmm.
Red mages are fairly decent all around, and like I'm comfortable and confident in my ability to run them.
Awesome. Weirdo, do you have any questions you would like to ask the runners before we get on to kind of final thoughts here and wrap things up?
Yeah, so the only other thing really is for Leggy, especially moving forward into that last chance qualifier. Are you going to pull out something crazy, or because this is one of those races where it's a bunch of people enter and only one person advances. So, or are you not ready to think about it quite yet?
Look, all I'm going to say is that it's either going to be a jet seed and you just have to play like by the book, perfect execution, or you have to do some kind of galaxy brain to get yourself in motion. And the sooner you figure out which of the two it is, the sooner you can pick something.
Some interesting strategic insights into the mind of Leggy.
Yeah, and so good luck next week. I know they're still haven't quite scheduled that, but that'll be an amazing race, both for our runners and for everybody out there. If you're interested in that, it's going to be 15 or 20 people all racing for that one spot, and the first one across the finish line gets through. Last year we had St. Von Jester not just make it through that last chance qualifier, but actually make it into the bracket stage. So we might have another dark horse come through this year. So, and then other than that, if you want to wrap us up, Chad, I'm just very grateful to be here and to work with you today. I was planning to do a little bit more of the tracking, but you kept beating me to it. So
we were racing for the tracking opportunities. Yeah, for sure. I just wanted to kind of give Rumblefish and Leggy a chance to just give out any final shoutouts as they get ready to go, and then I will wrap us up here. Rumblefish, let's start with you. Any final thoughts here?
No, I just want to say good luck to Leggy in the last chance qualifier, and just to thank everyone again for being able to take part in the tournament.
Awesome. Leggy, over to you. Any last thoughts as you exit Swiss?
Yeah. So as the lead tournament organizer, I just want to thank everyone who not only participated, but who's been helping out with Restream, who's been hanging out in chat and watching and cheering on all of our runners. This is the biggest tournament that Final Fantasy Randomizer has ever put on, and it means so much to see just how much everyone is doing and how big of a success this has been.
Absolutely. And for myself, thank you again to my co-coms and co-tracker, MG Weirdo. And stay tuned. We have an exciting day of Final Fantasy Randomizer going on. We have a number of tournaments on other channels going on right now. Our last race tonight is at 9, and we basically have a full slate of races throughout the day. So join us again here or on another channel. And for now, have a great night. Bye-bye.